Hello, welcome back for part two in our continuing series, A Parent's Guide to Soccer. We're going to have an informal discussion in this video about money, money, money. We're going to talk about the financial obligations you have when you sign up your son or daughter for soccer. A little bit about me again. I'm a local soccer president for a nonprofit here in Austin, Texas. I'm a proud parent. I've got two boys that are both playing soccer and they love it and are all in. And I'm an avid soccer player myself. I played all throughout school, and I still enjoy playing soccer and getting out there both with my kids and playing in some pickup leagues. Again, this is part of a four-part series where we're talking about the different levels of play, financial obligations, which is our topic for today. We talk a little bit about leagues in Central and South Texas area as well as nationally, and then important questions you should consider asking your club. Again, the outcome of this video series is hopefully you'll have a better understanding of youth soccer here in America. And then out of all of this, we really want you to, or I want you to have a better list of questions that you can go and talk to your directors of coaching at different clubs and ask the coaches, because an informed parent is the best thing we can have. Because at the end of the day, the more information you have, the better you can find a team and a club that fits both for your lifestyle as well as the style of your player that you have. Again, just to recap different levels of play, because it's going to really play in when we start talking about finances: recreational soccer, academy soccer, and select. So let's get into the three different types. The easiest one to start with is recreational soccer. So what exactly is your responsibility? Typically, it can be divided into three kind of separate fees. One is the registration fee. This is typically the largest portion, and really it's anywhere from around $50 to $250. It really depends between whether your program is run through a Parks and Rec. Where I grew up in the Northeast, it was primarily Parks and Rec, so our fee was very low. Here in Texas, there aren't a lot of local Parks and Rec. Most programs are run by nonprofits, and that because they're run by those, they're not subsidized by taxpayers like yourself. So the fees are typically going to be a little bit higher from registration because it has to cover insurance, fields, referees, whatnot. Depending upon the club, there may or may not be a uniform fee. It may be included in that registration fee. If it's separate, what are the uniforms that are coming with it? How much does it cost? Can I use that uniform every season? Can I keep using it until we're done? How often do you buy new uniforms? And then lastly, some clubs, depending upon their structure, has a volunteer buyout. Good questions to understand are, is that buyout included in the fees? Can I get that refunded? Our club, for example, we have one where it's included in the fees, but if you come out and volunteer some time over the season, we will happily refund that. But if you don't, we can use that to help pay for people to come out and clean the trash and the restrooms and things like that. Up next is Academy Soccer. As we talked in the last series, this is going to be a little bit more competitive, and we're going to have professional coaches in Academy Soccer. So what does our fee structure look like here from a financial responsibility? Well, number one, because we are having those paid coaches, the cost is going to go up per season. Again, most clubs that I'm familiar with charge somewhere between $300 to $500 a season. Again, you're going to want to understand what that fee includes. It may or may not include uniform fees and what pieces are in there. And at this age and at this level, because this financial investment is a little bit larger, you might want to understand if they offer any sort of insurance should your player get hurt. Again, uniforms do tend to be a little bit separate. They can be used season by season for most clubs, but again, you're going to want to understand what those uniform fees are. And the most important question is there a refresh coming soon? Have you recently changed your uniforms? Most clubs change their uniforms every 2 to 3 years because manufacturers discontinue one kind of style or cut for their uniforms. So understand when that refresh is and whether or not you're going to need to be included in that. There is nothing worse than a parent who comes in year 3, buys a $100 uniform and doesn't find out, hey, next season you have to buy another one, and it comes as a surprise and it hurts. Again, just like rec soccer, find out if there's any sort of volunteer opportunities. we're always looking for volunteers in soccer. So anything you can do there, and again, we can incentivize you a lot with those sorts of volunteer buyouts. On top of that, those same three costs that you tend to see in recreational soccer, the last one is going to be tournament fees. A lot of academy teams will also play tournaments. Sometimes they're included in the fee as well for registration. Sometimes teams want to get together and go off and do a tournament. So understand what are those tournaments that you're looking to do, and does your registration fee cover that? If not, how do you divide that out? Is it just taking whatever the registration fee is and dividing by the number of players? Or do we need to look at other things that we're going to have to pay for, such as, do you pay for the coach to have to drive out to that tournament? Things like that. So very similar to recreational soccer, just a little bit higher in terms of cost, and then there typically are those opportunities for tournaments. And lastly, we come to select soccer. Typically, your registration fee is going to be significantly higher than it is for academy soccer. Again, depending upon whether you do one season or two seasons and have a full year-long commitment, it's going to depend on how large those fees are. But again, understand what that fee is, what it breaks out to include, and again, because these are a huge financial investment, I always encourage parents to understand if there are insurance options and what happens if my player gets hurt. Maybe they have a clause in their just general fees, or maybe they offer insurance to help protect you should your player get hurt, you have to move, whatever the case may be. So always ask that kind of question. Again, uniform fees are going to go up a little bit higher. You're going to have home and away games. You're going to have a jacket, typically a backpack, maybe some other things. There's going to be practice uniforms that are going to be included. We want kids generally to be in the same uniform for practice. So the costs are going to go up on uniform fees. Again, just like academy, you want to understand where are you in the refresh. Are you doing a mandatory buy next year? You do not want to be buying a uniform for $300 and be surprised next season when you get another $300 bill. And if it's the same kind of uniform, ask if you can be excluded from that mandatory buy. Continuing on, again, very similar like the others. There's typically a volunteer fee. Sometimes it's, $35, $50, $100. But understand what that fee is and what is that fee used for. Maybe it's used for special projects. Maybe it's used to clean the bathrooms and get people to take care of, trash. But understand what that fee is and if it's refundable by volunteering your time. And then the other piece that kind of factors in here, right, are the non-costs, right? So registrations, uniforms, volunteers, those are all pretty well set. The costs that are always hidden are travel and tournament fees, more often than not, because most teams in Select are going to travel. They are going to play in multiple tournaments in the spring or in the fall, and these tournaments do tend to cost a little bit more. So you're going to, again, want to understand what the tournaments are that you typically play in. Are any of those included in your registration fee? And what are those travel costs, right? Do we travel to Houston, but we live in Austin? Do we travel to Colorado? Do we travel to Florida? Because you're going to want to have a good understanding of what that financial burden is before you get into the season and realize, hey, I just shelled out, $4,000, and by the way, I'm going to have to spend another $2,000 or $3,000 getting on planes, trains, and automobiles to get around to watch my kids play. A couple other things that I always encourage parents to ask as well is these fees, especially in Select, tend to get pretty high. And can I pay in installments? What are the sort of options that you have in terms of payments? Most clubs have the option to pay over the course of spring or fall or over the course of year. So find out what kind of options they have for installment plans. If you are financially in need of a scholarship, ask them about it. It never hurts to ask to understand how they offer scholarships. Most clubs offer financial scholarships based on need. Some also offer them based on merit. So understand how those work. The other thing is kind of related to scholarships. Some clubs, an increasing number, are starting to offer ways for parents to help offset that financial burden. So whether that's maybe going and recruiting sponsors and using that to help the team and help the club, find out if they have any other unique opportunities that can help you offset that financial burden. And then the last one really is specific to goalkeepers. My son likes to play goalie, so it's a question near and dear to my heart. But for people that have goalkeepers, do they purchase the same uniform kit and have to get goalkeeper items? Or does maybe the club provide some goalie items? Sometimes goalies, that's all they do, and they just need goalkeeper kits. There's no sense in them buying a $300 kit and then turning around and spending another $200 on goalkeeper items. So find out, does the team provide those? Does the club provide those? Or if I have to go and buy them myself, if my player is not going to play on the field and they're just a goalie, can they just get goalkeeper items? So again, I hope this was very informative. We talked a little bit about financial obligations. If you've got questions, feel free to leave them down in the chat. I'll get back with you. Otherwise, I'd like to say thank you for attending, and I look forward to you watching the rest of